Hey guys, welcome to the Son of Wanda. Black Panther Wakanda Forever is on the horizon, so I figured I'd do a review of the first Black Panther movie just for you guys in eager anticipation. So let's conversationalize. Alright guys, so I've watched the first Black Panther movie like 20 times at this point, probably more, and I gotta say, I thoroughly enjoy this film. There's just so many things about it to love, and I have very few criticisms overall. I won't make you guys sit through a whole run-through of the movie, because I know that you guys have probably already seen it, most of you have. So I'm just going to give my basic thoughts of what I loved about the movie, and maybe a few things that I thought could have been done better. But to start out with the things I loved, something that just has to be acknowledged is the music. The music for this film is absolutely phenomenal. The way they integrated African-style music into the soundtrack of this film, and like the singing and the way they do it is just so phenomenal, and the way they use music to, bring home that punch of certain scenes and emotion is just so incredible and just so interesting to see play out, and then you just to watch. It's amazing. It emphasizes certain feelings you're supposed to have while watching these characters talk about this certain thing or that certain thing or do this certain thing. It's just really good. And the next thing I love, speaking of African culture and the way they integrated it into this movie, the music is one example, but just I love how they took the fictional nation of Wakanda established in the comics, and they, incorporate real African, style traditions and even the ways people dress and all these different things, and incorporate that into this movie. And I feel like it was integrated so well. The nation of Wakanda is fully believable in this movie. You see it and you're like, hey, that could be a nation. I mean, yeah, they're really like technological and futuristic, so it might be disbelievable in that sense, but it's believable because of the actors' incredible acting capabilities, as well as their ability to combine African tradition with comic book stuff and blend it together. And it actually, the mythology of the Black Panther just is so vibrant in this movie, and it's a lived-in world. You know there's history to each part of it, and you see some of the history play out piece by piece, and it's just cool to see. One of the examples could be the trial by combat, featured twice in this movie. The first being, T'Challa versus M'Baku, and the second being T'Challa versus Killmonger. And even that kind of tradition is used in such a potent way, because in the first time you see it, it's, when M'Baku comes to challenge Black Panther, M'Baku doesn't believe that Black Panther is worthy to be king of Wakanda. And he believes that Black Panther is, he's just a child, and he's weak, and he shouldn't be given the mantle because M'Baku feels that T'Challa is inexperienced. But in that scene, you already have like this amped up sense at the beginning of the movie. You already saw T'Challa struggle and win this mini battle at the beginning of this film against M'Baku, and it contrasts the battle you just saw before with him in the suit, taking out the bad guy soldiers who captured Nakia and the other people. It contrasts that because it shows the Black Panther in the place of power, like in his kind of normal, like in the suit with his abilities. But then you see T'Challa's capabilities as a warrior without the upgrades of the Black Panther and the super strength and the agility that the Black Panther herb offers. And you see him fight without it, but you see him be really good without it, and a really good warrior. And the fact that he doesn't need that stuff to be awesome. And he also is honorable. I think that's one of the main things I love about this movie, is that it has a code of honor and a sense of honor, a sense of right and wrong, and what is okay to do, but what is really not okay to do at all. And it draws that line, and it there's some moral ambiguity in there of man, is this guy fully wrong in what he's doing? Is this guy fully right in what he's doing? There's some moral ambiguity there, but it does draw that line, and it gives a perfect comparison between the radical nature of Killmonger and the heroic, honorable nature who just wants peace with everyone in T'Challa. But the sense of honor that T'Challa has is showcased when he lets M'Baku live, when he just keeps, begging M'Baku to yield, because T'Challa knows that M'Baku needs to be the leader of his, the Jabari people. And I love that sense of honor that he has, even though M'Baku taunted him about, not being able to save his dad and all that stuff. T'Challa still is a good man, and he wants, just as his father later says, and T'Challa is a good man, and he still wants peace with people, and he doesn't want to have to kill anyone if he doesn't have to. And I love that M'Baku accepts that. He accepts T'Challa's mercy and realizes that, yes, he does need to be the leader of his people, and he sees that as a debt to be repaid later in the film when he saves T'Challa's life. So I love that story arc. There's just so much richness in that one battle scene. It just shows how you can do a lot with a little. Even if you have a small window of story to tell, you can do so much with that story, and you can just convey all these things about these characters that you're like, wow, I really like that and that character. What that guy did was pretty cool too. And it just, like, I don't know, 5 minutes or 10 minutes of the movie. Also, another thing to love is the use of side characters in this movie is quite brilliant. Each character has a specific personality and a specific thing that they love and often are motivated by. Shuri's motivated by her love for her family, and she, loves technology and, is eager to put this thing together and see what this thing can do, and so she has all those things going on. But Nakia has this sense of, like, she wants to help people. She wants to reach out to other people in the world because she realizes that Wakanda has the resources to do that kind of thing and do it even better than all the other nations that are trying to do the same thing. And she has this desire to help people. She's very selfless. Okoye is very loyal to her country, is very loyal to Wakanda, and kind of loyal to a fault. She's so loyal that she doesn't really, she cares who sits on the throne, but she still feels she has to be loyal to that. But eventually she does learn that to put morals above what she feels her duty is, because she realizes her actual duty is to aid the benefit of Wakanda, and obviously the benefit of Wakanda would not be there if she had let Killmonger stay in power and stay the king of Wakanda. So she's the girl, she has that sense of duty and that full commitment to her country and the rules of her country. Even the queen is very endearing of how much you can tell that she loves her son, and she wants nothing to do with Killmonger later because she knows that he's an outsider and he has an evil and too much of a rageful heart to lead Wakanda. And so every character just has this sense of endearment. Even M'Baku, even though you don't like him at first, later, like I said, he saves T'Challa and he realizes that it is beneficial to his people as well as beneficial for the whole nation to become united with the rest of the tribes, even though he wasn't previously, to unite the Jabari with the rest of Wakanda and become one. And he realizes that will be a help to everyone and that he needs to help his friend as well, who, his newfound friend, I guess, in T'Challa. Also, I love Martin Freeman as Everett Ross. It's funny seeing him as an American because I'm so used to seeing him as a Hobbit in the Hobbit movies. I'm one of the few people on this planet that actually loves those movies. And I love Martin Freeman as Bilbo. Perfect casting choice there, but it's really funny to see him as this American CIA operative who's just concerned about, I gotta do this thing for the US government and all that. And so it's just really funny to see him in that kind of role. But even he kind of has an arc where at first he's just more concerned about, doing what he needs to do for America. He's not really that invested in what T'Challa wants. But then he learns to care about these people, and he learns to truly care about Wakanda, and he sees their culture and the way they interact with each other and how they do things, and he's intrigued by this. And rather than being all up in arms about the fact that T'Challa lied to him about not having all the vibranium that they do have, he is more intrigued by it than anything else in the end. At first he's like, well, Claw's telling me that you have like a lot more vibranium than you say you have, so what's up with that? But later when he realizes that he was healed by vibranium because of Shuri, and he saved Nakia's life, and that's what got him shot in the first place. But when he was healed by vibranium, he realizes that, this country is like amazing. The stuff they're able to do could help, people all over the world, and so he's just ready to join their side immediately. And so I just like that they gave him that sense, that moral code, that even if he is loyal to America and has to do this for America, he's still willing to do the right thing for other people and not just his own country, which is the same lesson T'Challa ends up learning at the end of the movie. And speaking of which, the main plot thread of this film, that of course includes T'Challa as well as Killmonger and T'Challa's father and his uncle and Zuri, Forrest Whitaker's character, all of that is just so rich. You could just feel every emotion, but it's you can feel the complication too. It's like, yes, I get that but I also understand why he's upset, and on and on and on. And it really is a captivating story. Like, as you're watching it, you just have this heartbreak for Killmonger, because like, man, he lost his dad when he was just like a little kid, and no explanation as to how or why, or no help from anyone. He lost his dad, but he still didn't get help from anybody. And so you understand what led him down the path that he chose. Everyone still has a choice whether to use what they've experienced to become evil or use what they've experienced to become good, like Peter Parker and like Iron Man and all these negative experiences that people have, like horrible experiences. They have a choice whether to use it for good or bad. And just Killmonger was so enraged by what happened to him. I mean, rightfully so, but he ended up using that rage to carry out evil deeds rather than, be motivated to actually truly help people, and not help people in the way that he feels they should be helped. You can understand King T'Chaka's position to a certain extent, that he was forced to kill his own brother because he knew that if his brother was willing to betray Wakanda in the first place and kill all the Wakandans in the first place and draw his gun on Zuri, then he would be willing to do far worse to get what he wanted. And so King T'Chaka knew that he had to end it right then and there, which was insanely sad. But King T'Chaka's main mistake was, first of all, leaving his brother just on the ground dead, on the floor dead in the apartment, I assume, and not helping his son, who he knew existed. That was a major mistake. That was a complete wrong thing to do. And of course T'Challa was devastated by that revelation, because he had known his father all his life to be this noble man who rarely made any big mistakes or did anything wrong. But to hear Zuri tell him the story is like, it betrays what he believed about his dad. But after a conversation with Nakia, he still realizes that he can respect his father for the good things he's done and for what he knew his father to be, but he can still be better than his father and make better choices than his father did in terms of how his father led Wakanda, and especially the situation with leaving Killmonger or N'Jadaka as a boy behind. And T'Challa is so concerned at first about making sure that Wakanda does not reveal what they truly have to the rest of the world, because that's been the tradition of the nation for centuries at this point, and because he truly does know that if he reveals it to the rest of the world is just going to only do bad with them. That's what he feels. He feels that the rest of the world is just only going to use what Wakanda gives them for evil, and it'll go bad, and he has to make sure that he can protect Wakanda and protect the people inside of it, because he also knows that people might try to infiltrate Wakanda and try to steal more of their vibranium like Claw did. And so he knows this, so he's trying to protect Wakanda. But what Nakia has been trying to convince him, and what he ends up learning was one of his father's mistakes, was you can't keep all those resources and all those tools for helping all these people closed in. They had closed themselves off from the rest of the world for so long that they limited their sense of compassion only to their own people inside their own nation, that they lost the sense of how to have compassion for all peoples and not just their own nation. And I love T'Challa's speech to his father near the end of the movie, after he's resurrected from his battle with Killmonger, that that's the moment where he fully realizes the mistakes that the nation has made, and that the kings before him have made, and that he wants to be the king to right all the wrongs of the previous centuries. And he doesn't just want to sit by while people are suffering. He wants to help them. And it's that same like Spider-Man kind of thing, where you see somebody getting beat up in the alleyway, and you want to protect yourself, yeah, a little bit, but you also know that that's not the right thing to do. The right thing to do is to help that person getting beat up in the alleyway. And this is kind of the global scale version of that in what T'Challa is dealing with. And I just love how he handles it. I love how the writers wrote the script and wrote for the things for T'Challa to say. It's just the dialogue is so captivating and rich, like I said. Also, humor in this movie is handled pretty well. You might figure, like, with the case of Wakanda being a isolated nation and everybody being a warrior, you'd figure that there wouldn't be that many moments for humor, but they find a way to actually add some pretty good laughs in there without it being too overbearing and too like, oh, there's the Marvel humor again. Which is another great thing about this movie, is that the movie stands on its own inside the MCU. It doesn't feel like a carbon copy of a previous MCU movie. It feels like its own, that it has its own story to tell, its own poignant story to tell, and it's just great, and it feels good, and it feels different. It has a different vibe because of the way they incorporate the African culture and just the story itself. It has a different vibe than the rest of the MCU movies, which allows it to stand on its own as the Black Panther. Criticism that I have against this movie, if you've watched my Andor reviews, you know that I mentioned how I'm not the biggest fan of Ulysses Claw being killed off so early in the MCU and only his second appearance. Because his character in this movie is great, just as, all Andy Serkis' characters are. He's definitely evil, like he's despicably evil, but he still kind of makes you laugh a little bit while he's being evil. He's that kind of character. So I really wish they didn't kill him off so early. He ends up just kind of being a foil for Killmonger to have like a slight bargaining chip with Wakanda to end up, fighting T'Challa in the trial in the first place. And so I feel like his character is just kind of wasted in that sense. But speaking of villains, where I stand with Killmonger is I do think he's a good bad guy. There are a few moments where when Michael B. Jordan is trying to be villainous, it kind of plays a little different. It kind of plays a little odd. I think it's because of the way he's trying to play Killmonger as, this big villain, but also be kind of a normal guy. It's just just sometimes feels a little weird. But certain moments are phenomenal, and when he's playing the sympathy scenes and the scenes where you're really supposed to feel for him, he really nails it, especially everything leading up to his death. And before that, a phenomenal villain scene right before he fights T'Challa, when he's talked about how he's killed his entire life. He's killed so many people his entire life just to kill T'Challa. And you just see in that moment how lost this guy has become, and because of the horrible thing that happened to him when he was a kid, just finding his father randomly dead on the ground, he just he feels betrayed by the whole world, and he just is wanting to take it all out in the world, and he resents T'Challa's family for what his side of the family did to N'Jadaka, Killmonger, and his father's side of the family, and T'Chaka killing Killmonger's father. So you see how lost he is, and you really feel for. You have that sense of like, oh, I just wish he could forgive, but he just hasn't learned that forgiveness, and he wants to hang on to his bitterness, and he won't let it go, and he finally just ends up essentially destroying himself. So it's really sad to see his fall from grace, and you really feel for the guy. But at the same time, he's really messed up, and that T'Challa has to stop him from being, the evil dictator that he's trying to be. But all that hate just swallowed him up, and he never was able to let it go, and he felt that the only thing he had left was taking it all out on the rest of the people who he felt contributed to his downfall. But T'Challa's decision to, open Wakanda up to the rest of the world is really inspiring at the end of the movie, and I love how in that post-credit scene, which I'm not really sure why they didn't just put that at the end of the movie, I feel like that might have served better, but then the post-credit scene where he officially announces it to the rest of the world, I just love how he says all peoples of all nations just come together as one, as if we had no division and no borders, and just helping each other without any sense of, oh, well, you're this race, or you're this race, or you're this race. It's just, he wants everyone to just come together and forget any ideas of separation that they had beforehand. And that's just a very inspiring and truthful message to uphold to, and so I love it so much. But that is my review for the first Black Panther movie. I love this movie, and I'm super excited for Wakanda Forever, so we'll see how the nation of Wakanda is doing after the death of T'Challa, which, again, Chadwick Boseman's death, man, I can't believe that he died so young, and I am very sad that we won't be seeing him as Black Panther again. But I am also, at the same time, equally hopeful that the side characters will be just as endearing as they were in the first movie, and will uphold the same exact values as T'Challa did in the first movie as well, making it just as good, if not better, of a superhero film. So, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button to subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell for notifications. Have a very blessed day. May the Lord be with you. May the Force be with you. Goodbye. That's a wrap.